I have seen in the newsreels, I've read about it in the newspapers and heard descriptions on the radio. I'm writing with the tears streaming down my face. It's just that I got that letter of August 20th from you, and it touched me deeply.
Did you write often?
Every chance I got.
There are 19 million war veterans living in the United States today. 19 million men and women who've lived extraordinary lives. 19 million stories worth telling. Stories about big wars and small gestures.
My father-in-law said, I'm not giving you the silver dollar, I'm lending it to you because I want you to bring it back. So I carried that in my pocket throughout the war, and I brought it back. You want me to take it out of the case?
I want to zoom in.
It's a silver dollar from 1891.
Wow.
When my son was drafted in the Vietnam War, I gave him the silver dollar. And I told him he's got to bring it back. And he did.
Memories like this are worth preserving. So in 2000, Congress created the Veterans History Project to gather the stories and documents of veterans and those who supported them. These stories are told through oral histories, home movies, letters, pictures, and diaries. They are told by those who went to war and those who stayed behind. These are the Americans who witnessed history. These are the wars as seen through their eyes.
I was in Vietnam. I know what happened at Tet. We won that battle at Tet. But by the time it got over the airways back in the United States, we were losing.
These are the stories of veterans from World War I, World War II, and the Korean, Vietnam, and Persian Gulf Wars. Each war and each veteran's experience is different.
When my company was going to go, until we got on the plane, I didn't think we were really going. Because, you know, we always practice those exercises. We practice packing up all your gear, getting on the plane, and just departing. You just come right back, but we actually went.
Each day, we lose 1,500 of those who served, and we lose more of our history as their stories go untold.
Recording those stories is a part of America's history. The entire story will come together when you tell your part of it.
In 2002, the Branson Veterans Task Force teamed with the Library of Congress to help with the Veterans History Project. National representatives of the project realized the tremendous connection Branson has had with veterans from all over the country and set up a partnership with the task force. The Veterans History Project Committee of the Branson Veterans Task Force was formed to record and archive veterans' histories. The committee of volunteers received training in interviewing and in doing the necessary paperwork to properly record and document these important pieces of history.
I had no idea how much blood I lost. And we got about 2/3 of the way back, and I said, Doc, I can't go any further. So at that time, they tore down the ponchos and made a litter and put me in it, and then he gave me the morphine. And then they carried me the rest of the way back. They had a patrol go out the next day while they were transporting me out, and they confirmed that there was tracks there and declared that it was a tiger.
And I thought, Walton, if they're ever going to make it out of here, now's the time to do it. And I started and crawled over to this ledge and got a step in this rice paddy and got on my feet, and I took off. And I went back, followed the tank track back because I didn't want to get lost. And while I was following that tank track, it had run over a stick and had broke that stick just to the right length to stick in the sleeve of my coat and stabilize this arm. And about 50 yards on past there, here was the grape jelly that's in a sea ration can there was a package of that grape jelly. And that was the first meal I'd had for 2 days, was that package of grape jelly, and I still like that stuff.
2003 was a banner year for the committee. Through the contributions and fundraising efforts in the community, funds were raised to purchase cameras and recorders. The committee members found a good cooperation from hotels hosting reunions in Branson and are working to make the Veterans History Project a part of the activities for as many reunion attendees as possible.
That night, they didn't have anything to sleep under. They didn't have a blanket or anything. And so we shared, one of the nurses and I, we put our blanket down on the ground, on the grass, and then put one over, and so there were 4 of us sleeping under one blanket. So, you know, a lot of people didn't realize that there's not battles every day, there's not fighting every day. But we were in the middle of the battles, and we got all 5 battle scars.
Here come December the 7th. All of a sudden, I heard a plane flying over the quarters. Now you got to remember, I had all these years of aviation. Hey, who the heck's flying this plane over the quarters on Sunday? Day of Sunday. Then all of a sudden, I heard some machine guns going off. Pop, 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 pop. Took that gun out there. Right off the bat, there was some jet planes came, and I started firing at them with a 30 caliber gun. Now, you understand, I'd been an aviation ordnance for many years, and firing a machine gun, you might say, was just second nature to me because I'd done it for years and years and years. However, it was the first time I ever shot at anything that could shoot back at me. See, there's a big difference there.
Awareness is growing, and it is the hope of the committee that as veterans come to Branson for various veterans functions or just for a vacation, that they will become aware of the project and take the time to sit down with our trained interviewers and record their personal stories.
I was a little Missouri Ozarks girl, had really never been anywhere further than Kansas City. I boarded the train in Springfield on a very cold winter day. My father was there to bid me goodbye. I can still see him sending his little girl off to Washington. I got there about the time the Battle of the Bulge started. And shortly before. And when that started, we would have rooms full. I don't mean just one room, I mean rooms full of mail pouches of casualty reports. And this is why it was, you know, it was a 24-hour operation, and this is why you worked the long hours that you did. Many times very depressing. We had one young woman in the department who found her husband's death report, killed in action. Needless to say, that wasn't a very pleasant day in the department.
He just slapped that cigarette out of my mouth, and he wasn't a big guy. He had on a dark suit. He reached down in his coat pocket and pulled out an automatic pistol. And he didn't point it at me. He stuck it right between my eyes there. You know, I was sitting down here on the bench and he was standing. And I thought, well, I guess this is it. And that soldier, he just opened the door and grunted. He just opened the door and said, ah. And that civilian threw that gun back in his pocket and went back out the door, and I never did see him anymore.
Here in Branson, we do the recording at no charge and make available a copy at a very nominal charge for the veteran to take home. We handle all of the paperwork and forward the necessary forms to the Library of Congress so that histories recorded and archived in Branson are a part of the National Project. Join the Library of Congress's Folklife Center and the Branson Veterans Task Force in the Veterans History Project.
Millions of Americans. Millions of stories. Tell your story. Ask others theirs. There's no story or sacrifice too small.
come forward, tell your story in your own words. It's more important than you may think it is. The American story can be told through 1,000 different voices, 1,000 different pictures, 1,000 different memories.
People want to know what happened in all these historical events that the project will capture, and we have a way to do that.
I urge all Americans, veterans and non-veterans alike, to participate in this very, very important project. Veterans help to shape our nation's future, and only by understanding what they did for us can we truly understand the price of freedom.